Welcome to Phoenix, Arizona Homes by Ivonne. Today, we are going to talk about should you do a living will or a trust. And I have my friend in the business, Carlton Dasher from Harvest Time Group. And we are going to start right now. Hi, Karl. Thank you for being with us today, and tell the people that is watching today a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, I'm Carl Dasher. I'm the co-founder for Harvest Time Group, LLC in Avondale, Arizona. We've been in business for 26 years now, originated in California in San Bernardino. And our philosophy is very simple: by building the legacy for individuals to become totally debt-free and financially solvent for generations to come through strategic strategies we share with them on how to build wealth, maintain it, and become their own banking system totally, and throughout the United States and soon around the world.
Well, first of all, thank you, Karl, for taking time on your busy schedule to be with us. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm having Karl with us today because in the past year, we have had many events that have happened and unexpected events. And some of my friends lost family members. And a lot of my past clients have questions like, what will happen if I die? Will my husband or my wife will automatically inherit the property if they're not on the title? Which, by the way, if you are buying a house right now and there is only one spouse that is going to be in the loan, your spouse can be on the title. Your real estate agent, all they have to do is put the right verbiage on the contract. So, Karl, tell us what happened when one of the spouses is not on the title and what will be your recommendation?
Well, when a family doesn't take this particular subject as an important topic on the top of their list, you leave room for the perpetrator to have the advantage and take precedence over your assets. So it's very important that you take those necessary steps to make sure that you go to your banker or your finance company to make sure the beneficiaries are in order on whoever inherits the property, so that those important assets that you work so hard for don't automatically go into probate. So it's very important to do that. Now, I know a lot of homeowners, they only have one individual on title, but still you can designate a beneficiary, especially with bank accounts and other major assets that can be liquidated in exchange for cash. It's very important to have those. And we had that discussion earlier about the pot account, which I'm sure we'll talk about. It's important to do that.
And just so you know, it's not late. If you are a current homeowner when one of your spouse is not on the title and you want your spouse to be on the title, you can make an amendment on the title. And I will have an information of a company you can reach out to have that done, and it's going to be on the description. So, Karl, we talk about what's the difference between a living will and a trust. Should people do a living will? Should they do a trust? Should they do both?
Exactly. I said before, and I always will continue to say, anybody that has life and breath need a will. If you have responsibility in the family, everyone needs to have a will, because you will come to that day in our lives to where very vital decisions have to be made within the family. You wouldn't want any outside person of a loved one to make those decisions for you. So that's why a will is very important. A will is, for the purpose, is to make those medical emergency decisions on behalf of that loved one who can't make those choices themselves, by designating an executor and an agent to make those decisions, to transport you to another location if you're not getting the correct treatment, if someone passed away, whether you need to have an autopsy or not, or to donate your organs to science or to someone else at a facility, or to extend pain or extend life. You know, it's a lot of things that a person who's in ICU cannot make those decisions. So you want to designate someone that you can trust, preferably a spouse or a very close relative or friend that you trust, to be able to make those decisions and honor your requests. So that's why I feel a living will is needed for everyone, no matter the age or what type of family size they have. Everyone needs a will. And again, Ivonne, that eliminates
Friction.
with family members, feuding with one another. No, I don't want the person buried here. I want him buried overseas or out of state in Kansas next to his or her brother. You know what I mean? Or I don't want a cremation. I want a ground burial, and or I want to inherit this asset or this material thing. All those things and control will be emphasized in that will, and that will totally eliminate everything. Now, a trust is a legal document that has to be formed and formatted by an attorney, because it is a legal document that cannot be pierced. Once the trust is formed, it cannot be overturned because of it being a legal document. Now, people need to set up a trust, usually if you have assets in excess of $1 million or $3 million. If you own property, land, you own a very successful business, and you're running operations, or you own a nonprofit and so on, you need to have those things in a trust. And you have a designated executor, is usually the attorney, just like we see in the movies. The person passes away, the attorney reads off on who gets what and how things are going to be distributed. Even liquid cash, the executor says, okay, the trust says that when you reach age 21, we're able to release to you $500,000, because you don't want to release $500,000 to a minor, 16-year-old. They'll squander and waste it. They'll waste that money, right? So a trust is important, but a trust is important to have after death, so that assets don't go into probate. While you're alive, you need asset protection while you're alive, because you're still alive and you want to be able to use those assets. You just don't want anyone to have control over what you work so hard for. So that's why asset protection is important. We didn't mention that before.
Okay, so a living will, it's a more appropriate document for an average person.
Yes.
So what else can go in the living will? I know we talk about the checking account. What happens when there is two spouses that have separate checking accounts, and they are not a beneficiary of each other?
Good example. And I shared a nightmare story with Ivonne. This happened last year, 2020, of a couple. Older couple, but the husband was still working. He was a general contractor, and the wife was on disability. They had separate accounts. So the majority of their income came from his general contracting business. Very successful business. 2 weeks later, he unexpectedly passed away. Now they had separate bank accounts. He had his own account. She wasn't on the account. She had an account. He wasn't on her account. He passed away. The bank would not release any funds to her to live off of, because her name was nowhere on any of the accounts as an authorized user of the account. That has to be done prior to the event taking place. Because of that, she had to call her son in Colorado to pick her up to live with him, because she didn't have any money in order to maintain life and to live on a daily basis. So that's an unfortunate story. Why it's important to make sure, and I talked about that, when you set up a living will, the first thing you want to do is go to the bank and ask the banker to set up a POD account, POD, which stands for paid on death. So that if something happens, you're automatically a beneficiary of all the liquid assets, all the funds that's in the account, where the bank is ordered to release that money to you, and you wouldn't hear a story like I just gave you just now.
And thank you for sharing that, Karl. Sometimes we can have a misconception, because here in Arizona, we are a community property when we are married. But if your spouse dies and you're not in the title, you are going to have to go through probation. And the same seems to happen when you have a bank account and you have money in it, and your spouse is not part of that account, then you leave your spouse unprotected. So those are very important things to have in mind. Now, what about pets, and what about minor children?
Yes.
Is there something we can put in the will?
Yes, they also have in the will. It's called the Pet Guardian Trust. Now, in the Pet Guardian Trust, you can designate someone you trust to take on the ownership of that pet that you so dearly love and treat better than a child. Okay. And so they would take over that pet to provide shelter and food and medical attention for that pet. And you can set a budget to financially be able to support that for the guardian as well. Now, for minors, in the will, you have a choice to designate any liquid assets or any gifts to that child to be released when that child reaches age 18 or 21 years old. because again, you don't want to release a tremendous amount of wealth to a minor. They would have no idea what to do with that wealth unless the household trained them what to do with that kind of wealth. You know, if they knew how to leverage money and never run out of cash, great, that's fine. But at least 18 or 21 years old, then they would release those funds to them.
So what else can go on the will? We talk about sometimes we have things we forgot about it, like maybe somebody bought a stock. I know I did buy something that I forgot about it back in 2012, and I didn't realize until I was doing my will with you.
Exactly. Right. Now, so things like that, investments, that will go into the trust.
That will go into the trust.
That will go into the trust because that's securities. Okay, so that would go into the trust. If you have just regular bank account checking, then the pot account would cover for that. If you have, jet ski, motorcycle, airplane, those are trust items as well. But the will, you have an executor who has control to make those decisions on behalf of the person, and the agent is the person that make the medical decisions for that person in the will. Because you're still alive now, but if something happens, you're taking control to do things on behalf of that person who's ill, and then upon death, then we switch over to the trust or the asset protection plan. Okay.
So one of the things somebody that is considering a will be for them to consider who they will trust to make medical decisions and have the conversation with that person and make sure that person is going to be comfortable. And those are very hard conversations to have, not only with the family, but also with your spouses. I know that was something very difficult for myself, my husband, and having those conversations with my children was very emotional, but it was very necessary so they know what my husband and I wanted to have done in case we were not able to be with them at some point in our lives. Now, should they include things like jewelry? Maybe there is some.
Yeah, there's a section in the living will. It asks, would you like to designate a specific gift or item to a family member? You can leave money, you can leave jewelry or a car. The person can take over the car. You just need to give them instructions on how to do that transfer, but you want the vehicles to go to a certain child or a relative. So you can designate those things in the will. And then the executor would say, okay, he or she wants the entire jewelry box to go to Susan. Okay, Susan, here you go. This is yours. You know what I mean? Now, anything that will require legal signatures or, of that nature, then those things will go into a trust.
Now, once you do the will, does that will needs to be notarized?
It does. There's about 3 sections on the will that needs to be notarized, because in the will program, there's several items that needs to be covered. The customer would receive what is called a last will and testament, and it needs to be notarized. Then there's a living will, then the durable power of attorney that needs to be notarized, and then the general power of attorney that requires a notary republic. And then we have the pet guardian trust. And then also the client can have a document for funeral planning checklist. Time and time again, when I was a life insurance agent, the family has no idea who to call, who to contact, how they want the arrangements done. So you can have a funeral planning checklist, and then a file organizer. Now, the file organizer is all the items that the deceased had and paying their obligations, their utility bills, who's their gas, their electric, their phone bill company, to make sure those things are taken care of and that final payment is made, because you want to make sure that those things are taken care of and it doesn't fall into the hands of the surviving heir. And then life insurance, you can put the life insurance policy in there so they know who to contact, the agent, who's the doctor, any security measures they need to do. If they have a safe, what's the combination? All those things we don't think about. All of those. You imagine if you had $10,000 liquid cash in a safe, and the deceased never told you what the combination was, but you knew there was $1,000 in there.
Yes.
Okay. You'll go buy a torch and try to break that thing open. You know what I mean? But why go through all the hardship when you have everything in order in the binder and step by step what to do? That's why it's so important.
So once the will is finalized and it's ready to be put away in a safe place, do you recommend to put the will in a safe or share it with the person we assign as an agent?
I think it's very important to put it in a safe place. place,
Okay.
preferably either a safe. If you don't have a safe at the bank, you can put it in a safe at home. You can buy an inexpensive safe at home, or get a file cabinet where you can lock the file cabinet. Just don't leave it out in the open because it's in a binder, okay? And you put it in a binder, anybody can get access to it if they know what it is. So I would lock it up and put it in a safe place. But it's important that everyone who's part of the will, that you have that I call come to Jesus meeting with all the family members, the executor, the agent, the owner of the will, anyone, any assets going to an individual gift. You need to have a meeting because things change.
Yes.
You might want to add another person. You might want to take a person out because they're acting foolish. Okay. And you might need to make those changes. So it's important to have a family meeting at least once a year. But yes, put that in the safe place. I would.
So what I'm hearing is even after you do that living will, as you have those meetings, you revise what is being done, it can be changed.
It can. It can. It only requires us to complete an amendment, and we just add the amendment into the existing living will.
Okay.
Very simple.
Now, can you tell us what is the cost of doing a living will? Because a lot of people have not done it because they think they might think it's expensive.
Yeah, well, that's a very good question. And usually people want to know the bottom line, the cost of anything. And I always say, if anything that comes with a cost is robbing you of your peace, it's too expensive. Okay. Okay. Now, so anyway, we give our clients 3 to 4 different options on how they want to receive the will product. We can format all the documents in a PDF format. We send it to you by email. You print them out, get them notarized, and you put them in your own binder and put it in your own safe place. Or you can request us to put it in a nice professional will folder for you with all the information inside with instructions. We can do that and deliver it to you or mail it out to you if you're out of state. Or we can transfer all the information into a flash drive for you. Or we can give you the binder and a flash drive as a backup. So that price for those different options is anywhere between $150 to a max of $175. So that's a very unbeatable price.
It is. It really is. It is very affordable. And if you haven't done a will, I strongly encourage you to do it. Don't wait until something unexpected happens in your family. It is so important that you protect something that you have worked so hard for, your house, your cars, things of value that you have around the house. You don't want the state to take over and rob your family for something you work so hard. After all, what we do it for those we love.
Correct. And I say it all the time. We work hard to develop what we've established for the past 15, 20, 25 years. And suddenly someone in the state can rob you of that and it gives them 15 minutes to do it.
And you also don't want the family to be divided because you did not leave specific instructions on how you wanted things done.
Correct. That's exactly right.
Thank you, Karl, for being with us.
I really
appreciate all the information you have bring to us. If you want to know how to do your will, if you want to contact Karl, all the information is on the description. There is a link where you can set an appointment with him. It really takes, how long does it take for that consultation, Karl?
Oh, the consultation is about 30 to 45 minutes at the most. And it's a screen share in a Zoom. Unless a customer wants to visit us at the office, we do under very strict restrictions when it comes to COVID-19, where you're required to wear a mask into our conference room and the area is sterilized on a daily basis. So it is a safe zone, a safe area. But we can also do a Zooms, as technology allows us to be able to do that. But yeah, about 30, 45 minutes. So the things we need from you in advance before the appointment. You have to decide who you wish to be your executor and designate an alternate person. Also who you want to be your agent and an alternate agent. And when you sign and get the documents notarized, you need to have 2 witnesses as well, whoever those witnesses will be. So that's pretty much the things we would need. We would need the name, address, phone number, and email of the executor and the agents as well.
So now you know that having a living will is not expensive and it's not complicated. So you can start making the list of those things you want to have done in case you are not here tomorrow. And if you are considering doing the living will, you can contact Karl. If you're considering to buy or sell a property, you can reach out to me. Thank you for watching. I hope this information was of value to you. If it was, please subscribe to the channel. I will see you the next time, and God bless you.
Have a great day.